Mike, from a first-hand point of view, on the ground in Las Vegas, what was it like covering the week last week?
Oh, listen, it was crazy. The excitement and the buzz in the city was out of control at an all-time high. One more time, apologies for my voice, but it's going to keep going and getting better. No, listen, it was all about McGregor and Poirier, and it lived up to the expectation. It lived up to the hype. What I was thinking, the first fight back with fans in Las Vegas, it was unbelievable. I mean, you saw it Saturday night. There were so many celebrities. Everyone was so excited. I remember Thursday morning, I went for a jog. And at like 9 o'clock in the morning on the strip, people are chanting McGregor, McGregor. So the hype for the fight was unbelievable.
I believe you got mistaken for Stipe Miocic as well. Is that true?
Oh, no, I did, yeah. I'm in the toilet. Some guy comes up. Stipe! No, he starts saying, there's only one Stipe Miocic. I said, my name's Micheal Bisping, mate. He said, don't lie. Don't lie. I said, no, all right, whatever. I'm not going to argue with you. Have a good day. Yeah, UFC fans everywhere. But, man, that main event, I can't believe what happened.
No, it was unreal. Nick, from your point of view, obviously observing from afar, like myself, it felt... I mean, we wanted to see a different McGregor this time. We got the nicey McGregor earlier on in the year on Fight Island for the second rendition between these two guys. We wanted to see a more trash-talking McGregor. We wanted to see the guy with the lines and giving it the big one at the press conference. But for me, there was just... It felt forced. I don't know how you took it, Nick, from the things that that Conor was doing, but it felt like he was trying to convince himself rather than just being the old-school Conor McGregor that we wanted.
Yeah, he was a pale imitation of his old self, his glory days self, if you like. The banter wasn't there, or the Irish crack wasn't there. He just wasn't the same kind of, when he was at the peak of his powers. Yes, it was trash talk. Yes, it was cutting, but there was a real edge of originality, of character, of real personality in there. Loads of humour, And this time around, it was a lot more like Khabib. That kind of Conor. It was kind of vitriol. It was gutter. It wasn't very inventive. It was just straight up trash talk. And the last couple of days before the fight, you kind of thought, what's he doing this for? Because it's certainly not, it's certainly not impacted on Dustin Poirier. You could see it was rolling off him like water off a duck's back. Maybe it was to charge Conor up. Is it to get Conor's belly fired up and ready to go as well? But I think he's trying to be the old Conor. But the old Conor just doesn't exist anymore. I think once we got inside the octagon, there was times in the fight that we seen that as well. He's not the same Conor McGregor as he once was. He had to reinvent himself for this fight, and he wasn't able to do that.
Matt, you sat down with Dustin, and he kind of said something like that, didn't he? He felt that it was kind of trying to rev himself up because it didn't seem to be having any effect on Dustin in the build-up to the fight. And I thought Dustin actually handled himself incredibly well throughout the course of the week. And even in the aftermath, when Conor was still going, he was absolutely still bang on with Dustin.
Yeah, he was cool as a cucumber the whole time. I mean, even when Conor was sitting on his backside and insulting his wife again after Dustin had just beaten him, he still didn't take the bait. He still didn't lower himself. So I've got to say, nothing but admiration and respect for Dustin Poirier. But yeah, like Nick said, it was kind of forced from Conor McGregor. I was looking at the YouTube section comments and, of the press conference, and everyone was like, who the hell is this guy? I don't know this Conor McGregor. It was very forced. It was very nasty. And I do think he was trying to rev himself up. He knows how much pressure he was under in that situation. That was a big fight, and a big fight with big consequences if he were to lose. So I think what we saw was, Conor being affected by the nerves and the pressure of the situation, and therefore he was nasty. He was just as nasty as the Khabib press conference, but I don't think he did himself any favors in the course of public opinion. There was no need for that stuff with the wife. I mean, as Dustin, as we said, he was so cool about it. But if that was me, you would have got a way bigger reaction. Listen, you can say whatever you want leading up to a fight. Trash talk, whatever you want to call it. Fair, about your opponent. Maybe about your team and your training partners. Maybe about your coach. But wives and children, they're off the table.
Yeah. We'll talk about the ramifications for what comes next for both of these guys. I think we know where Dustin Poirier is going, but we'll obviously get to the Conor McGregor chat in a minute. Nick, the headline is obviously going to be the fight ended because Conor McGregor broke his leg. But the story of the fight, the story of the 5 minutes is very, very different, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, listen, I thought Conor started brightly. He came straight out, spinning back kick just like he did in the first fight, was really active, plenty of low kicks, few teep kicks to the chest as well, looking to land that left hand. First minute, 90 seconds or so, thought Conor was really positive. I was really, he was aggressive, it was calculated, he was bouncing on his toes, nice big wide stance again. For a brief moment there, you kind of thought, okay, wow, it's there, it's back, but then once Dustin got a little feel for that, it was like Dustin said, okay, then I can trade leg kicks as well. I can get involved and I'm not intimidated by you anymore. And when Dustin engaged with his own stand-up, when he had some success, it was Conor then that instigated the clinch, which eventually led to, Dustin taking him down. Conor very briefly went for a guillotine choke, but it was never near gonna catch out Dustin. He did the exact right thing to get out of it pretty much straight away. And then Conor had some very small success from bottom, throwing elbows up. But for most of certainly the 2.5 minutes of the first round, both Conor's shoulder blades were on the mat. There was no real fight from Conor to get back to his feet. Against Khabib, he worked tirelessly to get back to his feet. I thought he had more success on the ground against Khabib than he did against Dustin, because all Dustin did is moved his body around, got ready, and just started landing big elbows and big ground and pound. And that, for me, was kind of the tail of the first round. That for me won Dustin the first round. And then, of course, what happened in the last 10 seconds. And by the time the bell goes, you've got Conor completely out of the fight, covering himself up on the ground, covering his head up, by the way, not holding his foot and waving to the referee at that stage, just covering up. So from a judges and fans perspective, he's there completely, defenseless, if you like, hardly intelligently defending himself, while Dustin Poirier was raining down punches. I remember at the time I screamed, he's been saved by the bell. Couple more seconds, here Dean has to stop that fight.
It did feel like that, Mike, didn't it? The 10, 15 seconds of punishment at the back end. Okay, yeah, because he was incapacitated because of the leg situation, but the fight was continuing, and it did feel like we were moments away from Dustin Poirier getting a finish.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, it was a clear 10-8 round for Dustin Poirier. He got off to a tremendous start. Yes, Conor had a little bit of success, like Nick said, with the leg kicks. But then as soon as Dustin started landing, he was having more success, doing more damage, and you could see the look on McGregor's face kind of change. And it was him, as we said, that initiated the clinch. Now, the reason he went for the guillotine is because he knew he was going to be taken down. So if you know you're going to get taken down, it's like a Hail Mary. It's like, okay, well, I'm going to take something with me. So when I'm going to go down, I'm going to grab the neck and try and go for the guillotine. But that's almost like giving up the position. And he didn't have the guillotine locked in. There was no real threat there. Dustin even said afterwards, he said, listen, I've trained with good high-level grapplers. I know their grip. I know their strength. And I didn't feel that same thing. I didn't feel the threat from McGregor. And yeah, from there, come on, the onslaught was... It was bad. It was bad. There was a lot of damage. Those elbows were very, very nasty. And like Nick said, didn't see anything much from McGregor in terms of trying to get back to his feet, throwing up submissions. Okay, threw a couple of good elbows. That was about it. Other than that, led there, and he was a punching bag. Now, when it got up, yeah, of course, it was a very, very unfortunate ending. Probably fortunate for Conor, though, let's be honest. Of course, he's in the hospital now, and he had to get operated on. That's not good. But in terms of Conor McGregor, in terms of the machine and the fan base that he has, and a narrative to twist the situation, just like his coach John Kavanagh has this morning, he said, I saw nothing that concerned me. I knew that in the second round we would get the knockout. Nothing I was seeing there concerned me at all. Well, if that's true, John Kavanagh, Conor should fire you immediately, because that was very concerning. You were on your back and you were getting dominated, and it was a 10-8 round. That's concerning. You don't want to get your ass kicked. Simple as that, and that's what was happening. Now, the leg break was unfortunate, but as I say, it gives McGregor an excuse or a reason why the fight ended. But if that didn't happen, come on. The odds of him turning that round and finishing Dustin in the second round, when round one is supposed to be Conor's best round. It wasn't good. It wasn't a good performance. They will do a fourth fight. I think in the meantime, Dustin will go on, more than likely beat Charles Oliveira. He'll become the champion. And then we're going to see the fourth fight against Dustin for the belt.
You brought up so many amazing points there, Mike, that I just want to go down. But first of all, I'll bring up the 10-8 situation, because two of the judges did call that a 10-8 round, and one of the judges called it a 10-9. I personally called it a 10-9. But for people that you'll go on social media and people going, what are these judges doing? This is ridiculous scoring, 10-8, 10-8. It's never a 10-8. It is a 10-8. There's a real good, solid argument for that round being a 10-8. You need to look into the unified rules and the criteria of how you score a fight. The 3Ds basically you're looking for. You're looking for damage, you're looking for dominance, you're looking for duration. And if you assess it all together after reading that application, you could quite comfortably come to the conclusion that that's a 10-8 round in favour of Dustin Poirier. He most certainly wins the round, and like Mike just said there, he scored it at 10-8, as did Nick as well. Nick, just on one of the points that Mike was saying there, of course the injury is unfortunate, and of course nobody wants a fight to end in that way, but because of the way that the actual true story of the fight was going and the narrative was playing out, it is kind of a saving grace on Conor McGregor, because it keeps him in the UFC, it keeps the ball rolling, and it's given, as Mike just said there, a legitimate excuse to the powers that be to make another Conor McGregor fight, maybe even a fourth fight with Dustin Poirier.
Exactly. It gives us a real narrative there that can be held on to. Listen, I can't argue with Mike. I agree with Mike. I scored it at 10-8 round myself. I thought those last 10 seconds for me were absolutely, he was close to being finished there, Conor, aside from the injury. Doesn't matter. You know, the referee never stopped the fight because of the injury. The fight continued and he almost got stopped. So I scored it 10-8. But we can't come away from the fact that had that fight ended then and had Conor been in a fit state to start round two, we just don't know. You know, I remember he spent most of round one on his back against Chad Mendes, got up and knocked him out the following round, I think it was. And we don't know how much Dustin Poirier, how much energy he exerted trying to finish the fight with those elbows, with that big push at the end. Of course, all we can go off is the 5 minutes of action we actually did get to see. And for me, utter dominance by Dustin Poirier. It would have been some incredible kind of reversal for Conor to turn that fight around. But that narrative remains. He may have turned it round. He could have got back into the fight. It was a freak injury that occurred in there. So that allows us to play out the narrative that maybe we do need to see a fourth fight. Do we need to see a fourth fight next? Not for me. Dustin Poirier must fight for lightweight gold next. He more than deserves it. Charles Oliveira deserves it. Those two have got to throw down. Plus, Conor's going to be out for at least a year at the earliest. And listen, I've got to be honest, and I was very much in the Conor McGregor camp in the come up to the fight. I wanted Conor to win, I'm not going to lie. But I don't want to see, as a Conor McGregor fan, I don't want to see him go back in with Dustin Poirier after having another year out, a year on the sidelines, recovering from injury. He needs to find his mojo again, because the Conor McGregor that got beat up by Dustin Poirier in the early hours of Sunday morning is a completely different man than the guy that won simultaneous UFC world title belts.
Well, I think you are going to see him again, because the noise is coming out of him and his camp that they want to obviously run that back. They've had the surgery, and I don't know if you've seen his Instagram, but if you haven't, have a little bit of a nosy at this, because it's Conor McGregor speaking a little earlier on his story, giving you an update of his surgery situation.
What's up, fight fans? The Notorious here, just out of the surgery room. Everything went to plan. Everything went perfect. I'm feeling tremendous. We got 6 weeks on a crutch now, and then we begin to build back. You know, I want to thank all the fans all around the world for your messages of support. I hope you all enjoyed the show. I want to thank all the fans in attendance at the T-Mobile Arena, 21,800 fans in attendance. The place was absolutely electric. It was a hell of a first round. It would have been nice to get into that second round and then, you know, to see what's what. But it is what it is. That's the nature of the business. A clean break of the tibia, and it was not to be. You know, Dustin, you can celebrate that illegitimate win all you want, but you've done nothing in there. That second round would have shown all. And, you know, onwards and upwards we go, team. We dust ourselves off, we build ourselves back, and we come back better than ever. Let's go, team.
So there you have it. Conor McGregor still in hospital, straight out of surgery. I'm glad that it sounds like his surgery's gone well. We all want him to make a good and healthy and full recovery and what have you, but very defiant towards what happened in the fight and obviously what he wants to do going forward. Mike, as Nick kind of alluded to a moment or two ago, and the magic around Conor McGregor, he was fantastic for a short period of time, reminding me very much of Mike Tyson, for example, bursting onto the scene, doing it over a short period of time, and creating this superstardom. He has brought more eyes to the UFC than nobody else. There's no question about that. He's obviously acquired an amount of money that most people can only dream of, and the fame has gone through the roof. It is impossible for that man to still be the guy that is on the building sites, as he was referring to last week. It's impossible to be that same character when you're doing your training camps in Dubai and Portugal, living on yachts, driving around in Rolls Royces. It's impossible to be the guy that rose to fame. The biggest challenge now for him is reinventing himself, finding out who he is now and applying it to the modern mixed martial arts. But that's a very, very difficult task to do.
Yeah, but look at the opportunity that is also there, right? Because look at this storyline, it's insane. And now, at the height of his fame and all the rest of it, he goes out there and breaks his leg. Now, he's going to have probably a year away, which is bad for business, simple as that, because it was inactivity, I think, that was partly to blame for what we see, the decline, if you want to call it that. But as I say, there's a potential storyline here. Conor could take some time off. He could come back. He could rebuild. He could apply himself. He could get rid of all the bad habits. He could get rid of any yes men that he might have in his team and really go for this. And could you imagine the storyline? I mean, it is available there. He could do these things. As you say, living on yachts, training in Dubai, all the rest of it makes it much harder. But if, like in the Rocky movies, he goes away from all of that and he goes and trains at some gritty gyms, just like they did in the movie. But, I'm romanticizing it a bit there, but if he really, really applied himself and he came back and he wins a comeback fight, and then he fights Dustin and he becomes the champion of the world all over again, oh my God, I don't think I can take going on the internet anymore because the world will bloody explode. But that is there. That is an opportunity. He's going to take a year away, right? 6 months, 9 months, maybe a year. Who knows? Good news is, fortunately, surgery was a success and he's going to be okay. Will we see the storyline that I just said? Probably not. But only he can answer that. And there is a potential for it. How much does it mean to him, right? Listen, a lot of people may say, you know what, I made my money. I'm out of here. Bye-bye. Thanks for the cheese, as he said, and take care. But he loves this game. He does. And you got to respect that about Conor. So there is a potential there. And I'm just saying, it's probably not going to happen. But it could. It could. And that keeps the dream alive. That keeps people tuning in. That keeps people buying pay-per-views. And that keeps getting Conor McGregor in massive fights. Yeah, it's going to be very, very interesting to see how this all plays out.
Just a quick question for people watching this at home now. Please answer, Adam, Mike, or Nick. Which one of us writes Hollywood scripts for a living now that they've moved away from the octagon and stepped into the world of movies?
Hey, you got to keep the dream alive. Keep the dream alive. Hey, listen. Again, you guys have never done it. He did it once. He can do it again.
Of course.
Yeah. I don't think.
But it comes down, Nick.
But I respect that he's going to try. And sorry, Adam, I didn't mean to interrupt. I really do respect that he's going to try. That straight away, sat in the surgery room, he's still so fired up. Of course, he's angry. The emotions are fresh. But what is he going to do? This is the key time now. 6 months. Yeah. Is he going to go party? Is he going to take time off? Or is he going to be like Chris Weidman and back in the gym in 2 months hitting pads? That's the big, the big thing here. Is he going to use the time wisely? Is he going to be dedicated? Is he going to live a lifestyle that is conducive to an athlete? Or is he going to go off the deep end? That's the big question.
Nick, Mike's actually, I know that obviously we were romanticizing about Hollywood scripts there and what could happen. And Mike's right with the story. It could be absolutely sensational if he does it. But he does have to go back to what made him what he was. He is a different dude now, and he's living a completely different life. For him to reignite and get to the levels that he once did, he has to go back. He has to go back. I know it's Rocky Balboa stuff, but he has to go back to the gritty underbelly of Ireland, doesn't he?
Yeah, well, not necessarily Ireland, if we're going to play around with the Rocky movies, maybe it's Rocky 3, maybe he goes somewhere else, maybe he goes to Detroit and learns to fight like a fighter from Detroit, Apollo Creed's upbringing. He doesn't necessarily have to go back to the mean streets of Dublin, if you like, but Mike's right, we've seen it this week, everything, not just the performance, but also the banter, the crack, the way he was, the way his trash talk went quite venomous and quite ugly. That's not someone that mixes in a circle of friends that's on the mats every day with lads who are all just treating each other the same way, proper teammates. That's how you get crack, when you're just training together all the time, when who's going to shop, I'm going for this, you come for some lunch, living in that bubble, that fight camp bubble. That's where the crack comes from, because extracting the Micheal from one another. You're all winding each other up and everything else. Conor doesn't have that no more because he lives on super yachts and everybody brings him his lunch and his dinner on a silver platter, and he walks into 5-star hotels and 6-star hotels and everybody bows down to him and runs to open the door of his Rolls Royce. He's not the same guy. Is he going to give all that up to go training back in the dirty warehouses of back streets of Dublin? Is he going to share taxis with the lads, wait for his girlfriend to pick him up after training, eat fish and chips on a Friday night, have a piece of... Of course he isn't. But that's what made him who he was. So he's got to reinvent himself again, and that's what I was saying in the build-up. If he beats Dustin Poirier, if he is able to reinvent himself with all the luxuries that he's got, and he changed his camp, he's probably got more sports science involved in his camp than any MMA athlete in the history of the sport, and yet it's not enough. It's not enough because the fire's not burning bright enough. It's the wrong kind of charcoal. You're not fueling yourself on what gets you there. That working class hunger that drives success. It's hard to do it, man. It's impossible to do it. And I think Conor's proved over the last 7 days that he wasn't able to do it with all the luxuries that he's got. He was not able to reinvent himself a third time. If he is able to go away and do it, as Mike said, you've got Disney banging on the door because it'll be one of the greatest stories in the history of sports, period. But at this point in time, it looks like a far-off dream, if you ask me.
Yeah. Whereas Dustin Poirier's got that. He's got that with his gym, and he's got that with his work ethic. Let's just have a quick look at the lightweight rankings, because I think we all know where Dustin Poirier is going right now. We know that he's heading towards Charles Oliveira and a title shot. I don't think anybody disagrees with that one. But what would you do if you are Conor McGregor and you're coming? I know it's going to look very, very different in a year from now on, when he's maybe fully fit and got himself back to where he needs to be at. But is there a fight there that stands out for you, Mike, that you would want Conor McGregor to take in the build-up to a Dustin Poirier? Because you can't see him getting a title shot straight away, can you?
Well, you never know, because his star is that big, he might just get it. But if you're thinking about it analytically and you want Conor to come back and get a win over a credible opponent that favours his style, there's one name that really jumps off the page there. And guess what? He's also ranked number 3. So the storyline is perfect. Beneil Dariush. Listen, Beneil is a good striker. He's well-rounded. But out of all those people there, I'd give Conor a pretty decent chance of winning that fight. Tough fight for both guys, but that's a good, solid matchup. As you say, probably should have one more, but we never know. I don't think it would be the smart thing, actually, if you're Conor, to take a year out, then come back and fight Dustin again 3 times in a row and getting stopped in the first 2 and then having your leg broken. Doesn't want to do that. Needs a tune-up fight first, a comeback fight, build-up fight, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, Beneil Dariush, or maybe even Tony Ferguson. Tony Ferguson, as we know, still got a lot of recognition, but, you know, with respect, kind of on the slide now, kind of going downhill. The long win streak is over. So Beneil Dariush, Tony Ferguson, and keep him away from Michael Chandler because of the wrestling style and all the other wrestlers. I mean, Islam Makhachev, no. You're sidestepping that guy all day long.
Absolutely. Nick, would you go along with that? I mean, you said bingo with Tony Ferguson. Is that where you go?
100% Tony Ferguson. I think the other 9 names on that list would absolutely lick their lips and swim oceans to get a shot at Conor McGregor and the riches that he brings. I think everyone has seen the same thing. It looks like Conor's days are done. I think Tony Ferguson's the only other guy on that list that I would put in the same category. Everybody else is either a contender or absolutely on the rise to become a contender. So yeah, I'd go Tony Ferguson. Or to be honest, I think if he is able to come back in 12 months' time, 18 months' time, do the trilogy fight with Nate Diaz. Just do something else that takes him away from this narrative, because, as I say, there's 9 guys, and Tony Ferguson as well is a big gamble. It'd be just like Tony Ferguson to turn the clock back one last time. So I think you just got to be super careful what they do next. But as a fan, I want him to come back and get a win first, because right here, right now, if you said to me, Conor's going to go away, he's going to reinvent himself, he's going to be better than ever, we're going to put him straight in with Dustin, I would say that's a huge mistake. Dustin Poirier's got his number right now. That's just a fact.
But, and allow me to interject there, the only problem with that is that you risk him losing. Of course, the UFC, you know, it's a great sport, but they, you know, it's also a business. And they want Conor to fight Dustin for the belt. Of course, by rights, he should come back and get a win, maybe even 2 wins. But if he doesn't win those fights, then it's done. It's gone. The dream is over. And he ain't fighting Dustin Poirier in a trilogy fight for the belt. No way. No way. So it's a big gamble.
It is. And one that we didn't necessarily think that we would be having. We thought we'd have some conclusion off the back of the weekend. We haven't got it. It's still up in the air. The narratives do continue. But one thing that I think we can absolutely nail down, Dustin Poirier will be fighting Charles Oliveira for the £155 title next.